Howdy and welcome back to the Ineligibles podcast. My name is Will Stone, and folks, there is some coaching going on in College Station, Texas. You have to forgive me for my voice. I was lucky enough to go to the game. Yelled for 3.5 hours. Was one of the most electric, probably top sporting experience ever for me. That's number one. The way that game played out in the second half, but we're going to go for about 30 minutes and try to get in what we can, or go until my voice gives out, whichever one happens first. So let's get right into it. If if you're on our YouTube channel, then you just heard me on Ghost and Friends, which was also broadcast on my channel as well. Got to talk to him, got to talk to a guy from South Carolina about that game, but this is going to be all about LSU 23, A&M 38 at Kyle Field. Um, the, the fans, the 12th man just did an outstanding job. I thought it'd be 90% people wearing black, a lot of maroon and other colors just kind of scattered about. Was not the case. It was a pretty much complete and total blackout. Um, Waving the white towels. Very, very few LSU fans. LSU did bring their band, which was mildly annoying, but in the second half, it didn't really matter. I've been to 3 games this year: Notre Dame, Missouri, and LSU. Notre Dame by far had the most opposing fans. Obviously, well known for how well they travel. But wasn't surprised by Missouri. I was very surprised LSU didn't have more folks inside the stadium, which I'm not going to complain about. I love to see that. But it. I guess I was right on my prediction. It was not at all the way that I saw it playing out. I thought Connor Wigman would have a get right game, and look more like Missouri. Maybe not that good, but more like Missouri than Mississippi State. It was not the case. I think he posted. I don't have this pulled up. I think that was the lowest QBR of his career. It's like 6 for 14, or like it's something bad. He had a horrible stat line, and and the stones on Coach Elko to make the change when he did, and completely change the game and pull out the biggest win at Kyle Field in a long, long time. I don't want to dog any of the quarterbacks, any of the players, but there's something off with Wigman. I don't know what it is. Certainly, were times where we did allow too much pressure, and receivers weren't getting open, and receivers weren't catching the ball, and our backs weren't catching the ball, or like Le'Veon Moss wasn't catching the ball well, and didn't help him out when we had chances, because it wasn't perfect in the first half, but there were chances there, and someone on offense messed up on almost all of those plays. If it was either Connor with a bad throw, or a bad decision, receiver dropping a pass, or not creating separation, an offensive lineman missing a pickup in a blitz pickup in pass protection. So it just never, it never was right. It wasn't all on Wigman, but certainly a big portion of it was. He just didn't have it, and I think Elko said he told him as much. He's like, hey, it's not just you, it's everything. Like we just got to do something different if we're going to win this game, and they did. So props to him. Um, I'll, I'll I guess I'll go ahead and get the quarterback stuff out of the way. Then we can talk about the rest of the team, and 'cause I think there's a lot of praise and places to get better to go around. Um, Elko asked today about if like who's going to start basically. Um, so I'm trying to pull up the exact quote, but basically what the deal was. um, he's pretty much said we don't know right now, which I thought was even just saying that is telling enough, right? Because the second Connor came back, Connor was the starter, and there wasn't a question about it. Now, you know, we're 8 games in. Uh, I think what Reed has had. Let's see. I guess they've if you factor in the halves and whatnot, I think they've each had about 4 games of playing, and they've both been inconsistent. Obviously, Reed was extremely uh, played very well in the most recent game, but I think it's telling that that Elko said, "Hey, we're gonna reevaluate things and try to get things fixed in the passing game with the pieces we got." Um, if and like you guys know me, I've been a fan of Connor Wigman for a long, long time. From the second I saw his sophomore film, I'm like, this cat is something special. And for whatever reason, that doesn't show up in games um, at this point in his career. And I don't know if it's nerves, if it's the different injuries. He's had an ankle, he's had a shoulder, um, that sort of things. Uh, but it's just not the same player that we saw. Even against Miami last year, where he was under pressure and we didn't have just the world's best receivers, but still standing in there and making great throws, accurate throws, making good reads. Um, it just seems like I don't know if it's like some people say, "Oh, Jimbo ruined him." I don't know. I don't think anybody does know, except for the coaches and Connor himself. But um, it's a reality that at this point in time, he hasn't gotten it done. Um, on a consistent level. Obviously, Missouri was awesome. You saw the upside and what he can be, but if like there's a lot on the table still for this team, and I think if I'm the coach and I'm not calling for anything, I'm not at practice, but after what we saw from 10 Saturday night, I don't know how you put 10 on the bench. And it's not just like everyone talks about the explosive ability on the ground. Obviously, the read option game, which he's a magician at. I don't know how he pulled that ball out of the running back's chest and kept it and scored on that play. But he's obviously, if you go listen to, he's got obviously the post game interviews, but like after spring ball, he had a 30-minute interview on Texags, and like it just comes off so impressive and smart, and you can tell he's a coach's kid, and you know you saw it on the 50+ yard throw to Noah, in the air, like the kind of passes he can make. So it's all like all that stuff is there, all that ability is there. It's just having it on a consistent basis. So in my opinion, I think on Saturday against South Carolina, you see Marcel Reed trot out with the starting unit. I don't know if there's this whole conundrum of we have a quarterback come in, play well, and then teams figure him out, and then we switch it up, and then he plays well, and then teams figure it out, and then but that's not a sustainable model. I don't think. There's a lot of people that think it is. Like especially our coordinator Colin Klein has run 2 QB systems with success against, but it's a lot of it's in the same way as what we just saw against Texas Tech last year. I don't know if Will Howard got hurt or just wasn't getting it done through the air, but they pull Howard, they put in freshman Avery Johnson, and he has 5 rushing touchdowns against Texas Tech, and they win the game by a big margin. Um, that just makes me nervous. I would rather just have a guy, and if it's Reed, if this is the moment where we give him the reins and let him run with it, then just allow him to do that and keep getting better each week, and just get him as many reps as you can, because that's where I was with Wigman. The past few weeks, that's all I've been saying is like, hey, he just needs reps, he needs reps. But obviously, there was something that that wasn't it wasn't getting done on Saturday. So Elko made the change. It was the right time, the right situation, the right choice, and yeah, it obviously paid off in a big way. So that's all. Most of all I'm going to say on quarterbacks, but this is a smart coaching staff. I think they have to find the strengths of whoever they pick and play to those strengths. Um, you know, Connors obviously has the ability to be an elite passer. Reed can be, you know, terrifying to defend as a dual threat quarterback um, in the run game. But like when he figures it out, passing the ball, he's going to be pretty damn hard to game plan against. I will say this, and I think I said this on here after this game or when I got back from my trip. Um, Marcel Reed's first drive against Bowling Green, uh, he was he was on fire. It was the best I'd ever seen him play. And after that first drive, I'm like, okay, maybe I'm wrong. And when Connor's healthy, we shouldn't put him back in the lineup. I think if Reed's going to play like this, on the opening drive of Bowling Green, then that's our guy because that was pretty special. And obviously, he that was a scripted drive to start the game, and they were up those plays all week, and he went out and obviously was accurate, made good decisions, and got us in the end zone. But it was very hit or miss the rest of that game and against Arkansas. So, but then you insert him in the game against LSU. He's killing him on the ground, completes the long pass to Noah Thomas, which was as good of a pass as you're going to find in college football. But I'm obviously very excited about where we're at. We're what 7-1, 8-1. I don't even know what our record is. I know we have one loss and are undefeated in conference play, and we'll be favored this weekend and the rest of the games. We'll see about Texas. I would think they'd still be favored at this point in time. That could change, but it's all there. If you want to be in the playoff this year, that's there. If you want to be in Atlanta playing for the SEC title, that's there. So, um, you know, from what we have seen this year, these coaches and these players have found a way to figure some things out and win games when things got tough and their backs were against the wall and they found a way. Obviously Notre Dame notwithstanding, but you look at where this team is now versus back then, and I think it's night and day. I watched the Bowling Green game a little bit this morning, and our team from that point to now is a lot different and very very much improved. So we'll see. But to get back to the game, and appreciate you, John or Jay Wynn. I did not get to your question about Jade Walker in the live stream with Ghost. I know you were asking about him. I think the call is total bullshit. If and I need to go fact check this, but if that's the referee everyone's talking about, that's a diehard Longhorn fan. I don't know why he's allowed to call games in the SEC and especially against A&M. And if that's the case, I think it's bullshit. I think he should be assigned somewhere else and not in a game where A&M is playing. So that's all I'll say about that, about the officiating. It was just a football play. It wasn't blindside. It wasn't dirty. It wasn't targeting. It was, hey, you're standing there straight with your feet in the ground like an idiot, and our receiver just rocked your world and lit your ass up, and the officials bail it out. And I hated everything about that. I thought it was salt. I thought it was total crap. So that's all I'll say about that. But Jade Walker, obviously, you'd prefer to have him in a game where you're going to have to throw the ball to have success on offense against a defense like South Carolina. But it sucks. But I think there's enough guys there, and we played a lot of two tight ends against LSU, even especially when Reed came in. So that may be the formula against Carolina as well. So yeah, I did say in that live stream that we would win 17-9 or 17-10. I hope we have more. I think we can. It's just at this point, I don't know what we're gonna get on offense. It's like a box of chocolates. So hopefully it's not one of the ones that tastes like toothpaste. Hopefully it's a milk chocolate that's one of the top tier ones. So back to the game. Offensively, I thought Reed Adams was outstanding at right guard. Shanahan struggled in place of Basantis. I I think I certainly glossed over that last week and made that out to be not as big of a deal when uh, credit to LSU, it was a big deal. Their defensive tackles gave Shanahan some fits in pass pro, and they had a couple blitzes where he probably should have passed a guy off and left an open running lane for a blitzer to get through and put pressure on Connor. But was I thought he was great in the run game. I thought Dewberry, when he was in at left guard, was great in the run game. I thought Coley once again played an outstanding game, and honestly, both tackles did as well. The pressure we were getting was on blitzes, and interior would get either overmatched or confused at times, or it was a back. I think there was one play where we certainly I think they got Swinson matched up on a running back, which is not who you want to have blocking that guy. And so I think there's little things like that. All in all, Crown over Zune, Reed Adams, they played outstanding. Coley outstanding, especially in the second half. But left guard, Chase Basantis will be out. Through the bye week, per Mike Elko today. We need him back in a big way, especially against Auburn and Texas if we can get him back by then. But uh, obviously the O line wasn't perfect. You can you can watch the game and see that, but there was a heck of a lot of good out of that bunch, especially Reed Adams and Crown over and Zune. Running backs continue to be some of the most impressive that I've seen at A&M, just from how freaking hard they run. Um, and I'm sure you've seen the play from Amari Daniels, uh, blocking on a jet sweep, put their linebacker number 18, put him on his butt on a jet sweep, and we got like 9 or 10 yards on that play. But just everything just looked we just looked so much more physical in the second half than the first half. The tight ends blocked better. The backs ran harder and had more places to run. Obviously, with Reed in the game, things softened up a little bit, and they had to, they couldn't. Their defense couldn't be as aggressive. But yeah, I thought 35 played well for LSU. Savion Jones, he had a really good game, especially in the run game, and made some nice plays. Swinson was good. We luckily kind of you know held him at bay, uh, especially in the second half. Um, and 31, their D tackle, he played really well. But Whit Weeks was a non-factor. Um, he either I'd have to go back and look at how many tackles he missed, but after getting so much hype for his last two games, um, Reed Adams just completely kept him from doing anything. He couldn't tackle Le'Veon Moss, and you know, former, not to rub salt in the wound, but I'm going to, because he talked some trash about A&M after leaving this place. But Jordan Gilbert, former safety here, was ran over multiple times by Le'Veon Moss, and did not play well at all. Not that I like to see that. I don't want to talk bad about a player, but there is a little bit of karma in that, and um, I just can't say enough about how physical this team was in the second half. Receivers have got to be better, and we had some open. I think there's times, there's a handful of times where Connor just is. I don't know if he's looking in the wrong place or if he's just reluctant to pull the trigger. But there was guys open in the first half, and yeah, the drops were bad, the pressure was bad, but there were several plays to be made, and he couldn't make them. Um, you know, I think Jabri Barber gets open a lot, and he's a tough assignment. He's probably our best receiver, to be quite honest. Jabri Barber is. I would expect him to get a lot of targets in the coming weeks. Um, Obviously, Noah had the big one, but aside from that, like you know, they blocked well. Terry Bussey got a few touches, but this was all the running game, and it was all Reed and the O line and Moss and the tight ends and Daniels and that sort of thing. So super impressed by Klein and that group figuring it out and getting the job done and scoring 38 points against a pretty good LSU defense. And yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm nervous to see how they choose to attack a really good South Carolina defensive line and linebacker group. The whole front seven is very very good, and I'm curious to see how Klein chooses to go with them this weekend. But just big tip of the cap to all those guys. Defensively, how about BJ Mays, man? I mean, he transferred from UAB. Before that, transferred to UAB from Incarnate Word. He's from Houston Heights High School in the city. Just and had good coverage grades, on PFF and things like that last season at UAB. And I thought he looked great in our spring game, and then gets hurt in fall camp. Will Lee emerges, Javon Thomas and Des Ricks emerge, but then when when Tyree Chappelle goes out, Elko's like, "Hey, I know you never played nickel, but that's where we need you. That's where you can help us." And he was like, "Then I'm in." And he's been learning that spot, the last 5 or 6 weeks, and has just was a player of the game. Him and Reed were players of the game in what they did on Saturday. So the two picks, and just excellent coverage on a really really tough guy to cover, and Aaron Anderson for them. Obviously had the 70 plus yard touchdown against us, but you know I said this last week. If I don't credit myself, no one will. But you know, you watch Garrett Nussmeier play, and he's not careful with the football. He threw it, into he made dangerous throws against Arkansas, against Ole Miss, and against South Carolina, and they dropped a lot of those. He doesn't like to. He finally threw it away a few times in this game, but he hates throwing it away, which is you do love you love a gunslinger, but it did not work out for them on Saturday. Obviously, two throws he flat out shouldn't have made because he should have seen it, and then obviously Torrey and York baiting him into that last one, showing blitz on the edge and kind of he's not a tall guy, York's not, and he kind of hid behind the lineman, and Nussmeier thought he had a running back wide open, and York picks it off and ends the football game. So not just that play, but York played extremely well. Probably the best game of his A&M career this past weekend. Was flying around on defense, and we completely shut down the running game. Like they could not do a single thing running the football against our front seven, and it's because of the D line, but it's because of guys like York who were just in there and just playing so fast and downhill, and making good tackles. So York obviously played well. BJ Mays was awesome, and such a cool story. If you didn't see on Twitter, after that first interception, he's not letting anybody else touch that football. He goes over and hands it to his dad, which is a really cool moment for him. But yeah, we need all that we can get. And Jaden Hill's had a lot of dirt dumped on him from this fan base, and yeah, he's obviously not a perfect player. Is not the best in coverage against some of the better receivers we play, but he made a couple of really nice tackles, for I think tackles for loss even or no gain in this game, and it was it was a team effort. Scooby Williams wasn't perfect. He had a couple missed tackles where you look at their running back Caden Durham, he's got the lowest center of gravity that you're going to see, just huge lower body, and he's tough to bring down if you don't wrap him up, and and Scooby missed a couple on him, but comes back late in the game and puts a textbook perfect hit on a receiver to dislodge a ball on third down and force a punt. That was awesome. Obviously the defensive line. I mean, it was It was everyone. It was Albert Regis. It was David Hicks playing the best game of his career at A&M. Um, Shamar Turner just was on fire in the second half. They couldn't do anything about him. Um, and then Scorton, Cassius Howell. A lot of the stuff he does won't show in the stat sheet. They may not go down as pressures, but he had some really impressive reps on Will Campbell, who is an awesome player and did some really good things against our guys. But man, the spin moves that Nick and Howell have are otherworldly. Shamar Stewart was, he did his thing several times. They paid him a lot of attention. It felt like in the passing game, and tried to not let him get going. But he was still getting pressure and blowing things up. Blew up some run plays as well. Um, but love what Hicks did when so I think the first half their starting left guard goes down, Garrett Dellinger, who's a very good player, and I forget who they bring in to play in his spot, but Hicks wore that guy out all night, and was pushing the pocket, um, you know getting off blocks in the run game, and just played like a typical A&M defensive tackle. Like once he, obviously he's a 5-star kid, super, impressive physically, and has all the talent. It's great to see him putting things together and playing like that, because uh, it just adds to the already, you know, deep and talented and fierce defensive line that we have. Obviously, Scoring was great, and then I feel like we've lacked speed guys for so long, and Riley Kennedy, you know, comes in and he played well throughout the game when he was in there, but gets a big sack in the fourth quarter. I think that was the last drive they had that really backed them up. Just so explosive off the ball, and that late in the game, like their tackles are going to be winded, and he just kind of blew right by him and got a big sack on Nussmeier. But um, it made my heart happy to see Nussmeier, and not that we had any dirty hits. The one, quote unquote dirty hit was it was unnecessary from it wasn't even a hit, but we shouldn't have done it. Just a little shoulder check from Shamar, but Nussmeier completely flopped. I thought that was pretty silly, but we need to rein it in a lot, and not let teams get in our heads and make silly mistakes. But there were several times where even if we didn't sack him, we hit him, made him uncomfortable. LSU fans will say, "Oh, well, we made mistakes. We shot ourselves in the foot, and that's why we lost." Well, Nussmeier wasn't sitting in a clean pocket throwing bad passes. He was under pressure, getting forced out of the pocket, trying to not get sacked. And should he have made those throws? No, he shouldn't have. He should have thrown it away. But that's who he is. And LSU fans have been trying to discredit what our team did to them in this game, and it's silly. Yeah, if he doesn't throw 3 picks, it may not be the same. It's probably not the same score, um, but yeah, I mean, it's things changed in the second half, and they weren't being as successful. And I think A&M wins this game either way. Not to mention we gave them a short field in the first quarter with the fumble in our own territory. So that's not the best excuse. Um, who else on defense? I thought Dalton Brooks wasn't perfect, but made several very very nice plays, coming down and wrapping up ball carriers. Um, Will Lee played very very well on you the multiple LSU receivers. Des Ricks had a pretty nice game. Um, and they're gonna make like they're basically an air raid offense and they have an elite offensive line. They have an elite passer of the football, and they have a plethora of very 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 good receivers. They were going to make plays. We had the one long one they would let get away from us, but aside from that, I thought we did a pretty commendable job of staying with them, and not getting beat deep. And in years past, two things: a, we don't make the quarterback change under Jimbo, and the second half on offense never happens, and we certainly lose that football game under Jimbo Fisher. But the second thing is our defensive backs have not played like that in years. Under any even under Elko, his first stint here, they're playing at a really really high level right now, and very proud of how that group is playing. It makes when you have the defensive line that we have and ability to stop the run, you have to have an absolutely elite passing game to score points on this defense, and it's going to be tough for 99% of teams out there. I think I'm probably going to go ahead and wrap. My voice is hanging in there. It's doing the best it can, but I'll take a short little break here and try to get back on it. Maybe 5 more minutes on some other thoughts. So all in all, it's from a. I think we did move up in the SP plus per Bill Connolly. I think it's tough for the the power ratings to really get a handle on us because of the inconsistency, especially on offense. Because we're somehow number one in scoring in the SEC and conference games, but we still don't know who our quarterback is. We have big questions about the passing game, but somehow we just keep scoring points and getting the job done. So there's a big test on Saturday against a top five defensive line in the country. They're right up there with us in terms of defensive line. The linebackers are athletic, big, physical dudes. They will come down and hit you in the run game and get after you on blitzes. Secondary isn't as good, but we have to have the scheme and the quarterback play and the receiver play to be able to exploit that. So it's going to be a challenge. From what I've seen, I'm very glad that A&M fans are not writing this off as a guaranteed win. It's far from it. Obviously, Elko would tell you the same thing, but yeah, it's a night game in Columbia. That place is difficult to play at. Their fans are extremely passionate. It's going to be they're going to be playing Sandstorm. It's going to be loud, and we have to take care of the football and get better in the passing game to come out of there with a win. I will say their offense or our defense is a nightmare matchup for what they do on offense. Their O line is not great. I think they're among the leaders in sacks allowed and tackles for loss allowed, and they just don't have really a big play go to receiver. The quarterback is an elite athlete. Sellers, 6'4", 242, somewhere in that range. Big athletic kid, fast, can house at 70 yards. He did it against LSU. He's an absolute problem. But what we do on defense, the way these linebackers and D-line are playing, it's going to be a long day for the Gamecock offense. Running back Rocket Sanders, obviously he's awesome. Played at Arkansas for a couple seasons. I think he's gotten healthy and is playing really well for them. But I'm fairly certain we lead the league in run defense. It's a very difficult task, especially if you can't throw. LSU could throw, and they still couldn't run on us. Not saying that it's impossible, but South Carolina does not have the offensive line to really hang with our defensive line. In my opinion, I think it's going to be tough for them to score points. It's going to be tough for us to score points, but I like our offensive line and weapons just a little bit better. Hopefully, Klein will scheme it up and pull it out. But yeah, I mean this win was absolutely enormous. You've already seen three blue chip prospects commit to A&M from the 2026 class. Those are our current juniors. Since the game, you're hearing there's crystal balls and I forget what they're called, forecast, whatever else on whatever other sites that there are, but it's very obvious that that things are trending in the right direction for A&M, and I think this it's going to it's as good as I felt about our program in a long time, and even like who knows what happens the rest of the year. Like this team could make the playoff. They could make a nice little run, um, depending on the matchups. But it's a fun team to follow, man. I love this team so much. I'm proud of them. Uh, I love hearing guys like BJ Mays in the post game, just raving about how much they love Elko and respect him, and not just like they say when Elko walks into a room, everybody shuts up, and not because he asked them to, but that's the level of respect that they hold for him, and every single player will mention how smart Elko is as a football mind. But it's not just he's it's he could have a really special thing here. It's still too early because let me tell you, halfway through that game, at halftime against LSU, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, maybe we're not that good. Maybe Missouri's just that bad. They got blanked by Alabama. And maybe we just kind of beat some bad teams and we're really not that good. And then the team went out there in the second half and proved me wrong. So um, I'm enjoying it. Obviously, LSU wins great. Uh, Looking forward to hopefully us getting it done again. But this is a fun team to follow. It's a very very easy team to pull for and be proud of if you're an A&M fan, if you're an Aggie. So um, just I mean soak it up. Like there's plenty of time to talk about uh, that last game of the year on November 30th, about scenarios on um, you know tiebreakers in the SEC. If Georgia wins out, if we lose out, or if we win out but lose to Texas in the last game, like who would get in and all this stuff, which is great to talk about. But um, you know, I'm just soaking up. You know, I'm soaking up the way this team is playing so far this year, and coming off that win, and hopefully, you know, they're not too high uh, after Saturday, and they can refocus and get back on track. They're saying all the right things. Elko's saying the right things, and um, I think it's what we'll see. But yeah, it's a fun time right now to be an A&M fan, and even I won't even go there. But I'm just saying it's fun, and you got to have a ton of trust in this coaching staff to make adjustments like inside of a game and get things done and win football games. So um, I'll leave it there. We'll pick it back up on Wednesday, but thank you guys so much for tagging along, and apologies again for the voice, but it's well worth it. Um, Thanks again, and talk to you guys Wednesday.